Emily, your sports dietitian here. Welcome. This is the Fuel Your Comeback podcast, and we are going to continue talking about some New Year's resolutions today. Last week, we talked about the incredibly common resolution to lose weight and how that can impact recovery. And today, we're going to do a sports nutrition injury recovery spin on, I think, what's probably the number 2 New Year's resolution, which is saving money. So today, I want to talk about how you cannot spend $1 million on food and still prioritize some quality food and nutrition throughout your recovery. Now, there are a ton of resources of cheap grocery options, cheap snack options, coupon clipping, all that kind of stuff. That's not what this episode is going to do. This episode is going to do some more questions and just some general thoughts on what I would like you to prioritize and helping you decide what you want to spend your money on. But I will link some really great resources in the show notes. Like, I don't know if you got, there is this one woman who, Angel on Earth, she will do, her whole platform is how to put together a quality meal and cook for your family on items that you can get at the dollar store. And she did a Thanksgiving 3-course meal on $20 from the dollar store, and so cool. And there were veggies involved, there were fruits involved, there was protein involved. They're a really great resource. But in general, again, this episode is if your goal is to save some money at the grocery store and you are recovering from an injury, here are my thoughts. This is how we would have a conversation about it. Number 1, I want to encourage you to decide what you are willing to spend money on. If you have listened to me, if you know me at all by now, you know that to me, food is so much more than the calories it gives us, than the nutrition it gives us. Food can bring so much joy to your life. It can bring community. It can be a way to show love to someone. Like, I used to have a stash of like cookies at my desk at a team I used to work with. And I would notice when an athlete was having a bad day at practice and just be like, do you want a cookie? Right? Like, there's no performance value in having a cookie, but food is just more than that. Okay. So when I say decide what you're willing to spend your money on, I want you to think about what piece of food or what aspect of food brings you the most joy or is important, right? Is it like convenience needs to be really important to you? You are not going to spend an hour chopping vegetables, and it is worth it to you to buy the pre-chopped option. It's worth it to you to go to Chipotle a couple times a week because A, you can build a great performance plate at Chipotle. You love Chipotle, and that is a convenience factor. That is worth it, right? Is being able to go out to eat with your family and friends something that's worth spending your money on? How often? Is, a specific restaurant or that Sunday afternoon DoorDash splurge, whatever it may be. I want you to start there of like, okay, what's something that's like kind of expensive or more expensive than it needs to be, but it's worth it to me. And how can you set some boundaries around that? Like, how often does that feel good? That Sunday afternoon, DoorDash splurge where maybe you're going to spend your time cleaning your apartment instead, and that feels like a good use of your money. Or you just are with your family and that's your time. It feels good to do that. That's great. It might not feel good to DoorDash every night, right? We might want to set that boundary there of like, okay, this is a once a week kind of thing, or whatever that looks like for you. Once we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about what tends to be expensive at the grocery store, because you know me, when it comes to changing anything, we're going to find the small swaps that we can do so that your day-to-day life looks 99% the same, but we are tweaking something that's getting us one step closer to our goal. So the most expensive grocery options, or just food options in general, right? Because the first one that comes to mind is fast food or like Chipotle or those sandwich stores or things like that, right? you can save a lot of money by doing that kind of stuff at home. But maybe instead of dropping it cold turkey, I want you to think about how are you going to replace that in a way that is just as convenient and that brings you equal amount of serotonin. An example that comes to mind, I know quite a few athletes that love Chick-fil-A and they go often, and we end up having a conversation that is, basically how you can recreate that same meal at home. And they're like, yeah, but it's not Chick-fil-A. So we can either put some boundaries on how often we're going to go to Chick-fil-A, or B, you find something that, you can either recreate that meal at home knowing it's not going to be quite as good, and you add a little reward for yourself afterwards. So like if you love a certain TV show, then maybe you make your at-home Chick-fil-A and you get to eat it while watching that show. Or you love like taking a bath at night, then you make your at-home Chick-fil-A and you treat yourself to a bath. It sounds so silly, but this is how the brain works. We need to have something that replaces that feel-good feeling of whatever you love about Chick-fil-A. I don't know. I did not grow up in the South, so I don't have the Chick-fil-A hype, but I feel like I have this conversation with athletes all the time. So instead of, again, just taking something out and removing it, I need you to figure out what is going to be the easiest option to replace it, right? If we're making that Chick-fil-A meal at home, please don't expect yourself to make something from scratch all the time. Maybe we have chicken nuggets in the freezer and a fruit cup and whatever, and we're doing that at home. Or maybe we have a rotisserie chicken at home and we're going to have a shredded chicken sandwich instead of a Chick-fil-A sandwich. Potentially, you're going to boost that serotonin by every time you make that decision for yourself, you have like a little piggy bank and you get to put $5 in there because that's what you just saved by doing that. If that's your goal, that's fine. The other thing that comes to mind that costs a lot of money generally is the snack aisle. Snacks are so expensive. Bars, cereals, chips, things like that. I just feel like they have gotten outrageous lately. And maybe that's a category that we can start to swap. Maybe, we're just going to go for some good old fruit and peanut butter instead of a bag of Tostitos. Maybe we're going to do popcorn. Popcorn can be pretty cheap. Maybe we're going to do like fruit cups. One, they can stay in your pantry for a long time and they're pretty cheap. Maybe we want to do yogurt instead of beef jerky. It's still a protein source, but it's a significantly cheaper protein source. Maybe we want to make peanut butter oat balls instead of buying bars. That category could be a good way to save some money at the grocery store. Another one, of course, is your meat. And, everybody talks about this, but yes, buy your protein in bulk and separate it before you freeze it or store it. That is the easiest way to save money on your protein. If you have the space for it, there's also places like Butcher Box where, you can get some quality protein at a decent price. And like Wild Alaskan has the same thing, but seafood. It's a little late for this now, but those subscription type things are also fantastic things to ask for Christmas or your birthday. If you're like me and your parents are like, what do you want? And you're like, I don't know. I think those are great options and save you money on something that you're going to need anyways. So my recommendation would be to start with one of those categories. If you are a going out to eat person, then what is a meal that you feel comfortable making at home? And we're going to start there. Or if you are a big snack person, then what are some ways that we can buy some cheaper snacks and some swaps that you can make? Or if you're spending a lot of money on protein, can we put in a little bit more work and utilize our freezer more often? Which one of those categories do you want to start with? And see how that goes. Some other options and ideas. Most college campuses have a food pantry that will let you come in, no questions asked. That can be a really great resource for college athletes. Options like Misfits or Imperfect Foods are programs that help you get less than perfect fruit and vegetables at a lower price. You could also use ChatGPT. I feel like everybody has been discovering all of these cool ways to make our life easier with ChatGPT. Have it make a grocery list for you in your budget. So I actually tried this a couple days ago, and you just type in, hey, ChatGPT, can you create a grocery list for me that includes a breakfast, lunch, and a few different dinner options and a few different snack options for one person, for my family, for 5 days for less than $100. You will have to look at the meal plan that it spits out to you and adjust a little bit. Like, it might give you a meal that doesn't have any carbohydrates in it. We know that we're not going to be doing that. But in general, it's a really good start, and it'll give you a grocery list in your budget, and then you can, be creative. You should also look up the coupon programs that are happening in your grocery store. A lot of them have apps nowadays where it'll just show you everything that's on sale and take advantage of that. Or even better, if you order your groceries online, you can just pull up all of the deals, which can be a really nice way to do that. And you can always see what is the cheapest option. Last but not least, I also want to encourage you to find your quote unquote dump meal. So, especially if part of this process for you is going to be trying to cook more at home, trying to buy more groceries, then you need to have a meal that you can easily throw all of your leftovers into and it works. For me, this is chili. Like, anytime I have leftover veggies or leftover meat, I can usually throw it into a pot of chili with some tomatoes and a seasoning packet that are like $2, and then I have 2 more nights of meals with food that was going to go bad anyways. So think about what that could be. Maybe ask ChatGPT. But chili is a pretty common one, and it works well. But yeah, long story short, we know this: the more that you prepare yourself, the less money that you'll spend. And just like any other goal, please don't expect yourself to become a new person magically overnight. Start small, start with baby steps, swap one thing and see how it goes. We're going to move on from the topic of New Year's resolutions next week, but in general, when it comes to your resolutions, something that I talk about a lot, I want you to imagine yourself at your worst. I want you to pretend that you're coming home from a bad day at work, or you are tired or whatever. What is yourself gonna want to do or be able to do at that point in time? That is what you plan for. That is going to be the easiest to follow through with. Obviously, I'm hoping that you don't have a bad day at work and you're feeling just fine, but we want to create really, really easy options for ourselves.